diet. I don't want to go on the Plan B diet, so I can't wait to hear what's in Plan A. And let's get started over a month. Thank you for coming, everyone. My name is Sid. How many of you are currently eating a plant-based diet? I'm curious to know. Right? How many are thinking about it? All right, well, I hope to provide some motivation for you today if you happen to be on the fence. So my name is Sid Natter. I'm a longtime nutrition educator, and for over 2 decades now, I've been helping people transition to a whole food plant-based diet. I'm also the founder and author of a new book that just came out called The Plan A Diet. It released in October, and I'll be talking a little bit about that today, but my main goal is to share with you some of the top benefits of eating this way. So first of all, what does whole food plant-based eating mean? It means eating foods in their whole natural state, as close to nature as possible, with minimal processing. Now, light processing is fine, such as blending, freezing, and cooking, but heavily processed items should be avoided. For example, a potato is a whole food, but a potato that's been fried in grease to make fries is no longer a whole food. An apple is a whole food, but an apple that's been converted into a Pop-Tart is no longer a whole food. So the first benefit of eating this way, it is the only diet out there that can actually reverse our heart disease. It can unclog arteries. It's the only plant out there with the capability to do that. Angiograms prove it all the time. So that alone should be a huge motivator. Heart disease is our #1 killer. If I'm sure all of you know someone or have been affected by it somehow. Also, this way of eating not only prevents heart disease, it can prevent, halt, or reverse every top 15 leading causes of death. And here you see our top 15 leading killers in order. Heart disease #1, then lung disease, medical mishaps is #3, brain diseases, digestive cancers, infections, diabetes, high blood pressure, liver disease, blood cancers, kidney disease, breast cancer, suicide, prostate cancer, and Parkinson's. And that is a mouthful, isn't it? The good news is, though, that other chronic conditions such as high cholesterol, acid reflux, gout, arthritis, all of those things are easily relieved or reversible too with this way of eating. That's because the body is always striving to heal itself, and it can do so when we give it the right dietary environment. The second benefit of eating this way is natural weight loss, because when you're eating for health reasons, like I promote in my book, 1 to 3 pounds a week of natural weight loss will occur, but that's because we're eating foods low in calorie density. Foods that are low in calorie density allow us to fill our stomachs with a lot less food. I mean, you would not eat 2 big bowls of black bean chili, right? You'd feel like you're going to explode. So when you're eating foods that are high in fiber, high in water, and calorie dilute, you never have to deprive yourself. There's no deprivation or restriction when you eat this way. You eat whenever you're hungry, you stop when you're full. You don't starve yourself, you don't stuff yourself. That's kind of the key. It allows us to eat smaller portions and feel full, and to achieve natural weight loss without really even trying. I did a survey on Facebook recently to ask why people were eating this way. Was it health reasons or weight? And I thought weight would be the #1, but it was actually health reasons, but they then experienced weight loss, which they were quite pleased about. The third benefit of eating this way is there's no cholesterol. So cholesterol is only found in animal foods, meat, dairy, fish, and eggs. Plants contain no cholesterol at all, and many people are surprised to learn that chicken and fish have as much cholesterol as beef. They think those foods don't have cholesterol, but they have as much cholesterol as beef. And why should we care about that? Because cholesterol damages our artery linings, it forms the way for plaque, and that, of course, is an increased risk for heart disease and stroke. So many of the doctors that I'm certified under say that our total cholesterol should be 150 or less, with our LDL, which is the bad cholesterol, at 80 or less, and that's without medications. Plus, diets high in cholesterol. Oh, come in closer. Oh, sorry. Is that better? If you have high cholesterol in midlife, your chances of Alzheimer's, we had a doctor talking about that here earlier today, your chances of Alzheimer's are greatly increased if you have a high cholesterol level in midlife. And Alzheimer's has risen 87% over the last decade, which is now one of our fastest growing epidemics. The good news is, as the other doctors talked about, is that 80 to 90% of that is totally preventable. The fourth benefit is low saturated fat. What is saturated fat? Are fat molecules that are saturated with hydrogen atoms, and it stays solid at room temperature. So here you can see a picture of foods, meats and processed meats and cheese with saturated fat. In fact, cheese is the highest source of saturated fat in the American diet. And why should we care about that? Oh, by the way, you can see saturated fat. It's the white marbling in the steak or the meats. That is saturated fat when you see that white marbling in there. And why should we care about that is because saturated fat stiffens our artery walls. It makes our blood viscous or thick. It raises blood pressure, and it contributes to impaired brain function, type 2 diabetes, and much, much more. Plus, it triggers the release of cholesterol. When you eat a lot of fat, the body has to release bile in order to digest that fat. And bile is cholesterol laden, so when we eat fat, we can actually raise our cholesterol levels just by eating a lot of fat. There are plant foods that have saturated fat. In fact, coconut products, cocoa butter, those things are higher in saturated fat. That's why I don't recommend them to my clients. To put that in perspective, a tablespoon of lard has 5 grams of saturated fat. A tablespoon of coconut oil has 12. So there's over 2 times the amount of saturated fat in coconut oil as there is in lard. The next benefit is that these foods are very anti-inflammatory. So acute inflammation occurs, you know, when you get a cut or a splinter or you stub your toe, that area becomes painful and swollen and red and hot sometimes. That's because the body has rushed immune cells. The most likely site for that to happen is the lining of our arteries. So when all of these fats and cholesterols that we eat, they form these little plaques, which look like little sores, and the body sees that as a threat. That's what inflammation is really the body's response to a threat or harm. So that's how chronic inflammation begins, when the body sees a threat and keeps immune cells there even though they're not needed. Inflammatory foods that are widely consumed today are refined sugar, highly inflammatory, meats and processed meats, especially feedlot-raised meats, because the animals are being fed inflammatory grains. Common oils are very inflammatory, as well as refined grains. So anything you buy with enriched wheat, that's a refined grain. Alcohol is inflammatory, as well as food dyes and additives. But the anti-inflammatory foods are fruits, especially berries and oranges, vegetables, beans, legumes, whole soy foods, and greens such as spinach and kale. So this is one reason why people that are experiencing inflammation issues such as chronic pain, high blood pressure, gout, arthritis, basically anything ending in itis is related to inflammation. So people that switch to this way of eating often find great relief within a short time. Benefit number 6 are the vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants, because experts agree that the best way to get all of these nutrients that we need is through food, right? So a well-structured plant-based diet offers the ideal mix of all the vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants and phytonutrients that we need. It's the synergistic reaction of all of those things that works really well. That's why when we take isolated nutrients, sometimes for different things, different vitamins, sometimes those don't work and can actually cause harm because the body isn't recognizing that in synergy with all the other properties of food. So when we eat this way, the body can choose exactly what it needs for optimal function. And it absorbs exactly what it needs. It's called selective absorption. Benefit number 7 is protein in the right amount, right? Because when people hear that you're eating plant-based, that's the first question they're going to ask is, where are you getting your protein? So proteins are 20 amino acids that form into a chain, and plants make every one of those 20 amino acids. So plant foods are very high in protein. And the World Health Organization says that we only need 5% of our calories to come from protein. So compare that to the protein in plants. We have potatoes, which are 10%, beans 25%, and so on. All the way down to spinach is 51% protein. And then I've got breast milk listed there as 5% protein. And why did I include breast milk there? Is because babies who are at the most rapidly growing stage of life, often doubling their weight in a short amount of time, they have great protein needs. And so breast milk at 5% protein is able to amply meet all of their needs. Now, when I'm doing a class, sometimes I'll ask people how much protein they need and how much they're consuming, and they really don't have any idea. They've just been convinced by society that we need tons of protein to be healthy, when in fact the opposite is true, because the body doesn't store excess protein, it has to excrete it, which is really hard on the liver and kidneys. So not to worry, it would be virtually impossible to become protein deficient on a whole food plant-based diet. People have tried to disprove this, and as long as you're eating enough food, you will not become deficient in protein. Just to ease your mind about that. So number 8 benefit is calcium. Calcium is a mineral in the soil that's absorbed and eaten by the largest mammals on Earth: cows, elephants. Sorry. So cows, elephants, horses, gorillas, all of these big plant-eating animals get all their calcium from plants, even cows. So cows do not produce calcium, nor do they inherently have calcium in their milk. They get it because they're eating calcium-rich plants. So just as with protein and calcium, animals are getting all of those nutrients from the plants themselves. So the World Health Organization says that we need 400 to 500 milligrams of calcium a day to prevent osteoporosis. And right now in our country, the recommended daily allowance, the RDA for calcium is between 1,000 and 1,200 milligrams a day for both men and women, depending on your age. But as we can see, plants provide all the calcium we need, and just eating one bowl of bean kale soup plus one orange, the orange is about 112 milligrams of calcium. The bean kale soup has about 400 in a bowl. You've already met your calcium needs with just having one lunch. And again, you're not getting the health risks associated with eating too much calcium from dairy or supplements, and there are health risks associated with too much calcium. So every system in the body benefits, and every system and organ benefits from eating this way. So we've talked about disease prevention and reversal, weight loss, no cholesterol, low saturated fat, anti-inflammation, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, the right levels of protein and calcium, and there's so much more I could share. All of this is outlined in my book, as well as much, much more. But not only that, it's this way of eating helps your brain, it helps your bones. I have reversed many conditions myself by eating this way. Your heart, your liver, your kidneys, your gut bacteria thrives on the fiber and complex carbohydrates, plant foods. Your gut bacteria thrives on that. Plus, this way of eating lowers A1C levels 3 times greater than the diet prescribed by the American Diabetes Association. So that's why many people are able to totally reverse their type 2 diabetes. Now, all of this is my personal motivator for eating this way. I have a dire family history filled with heart disease, stroke, cancer, many ailments in my family, and this is one of my personal motivators, and I hope that some of this information will motivate you too. So let me just share a few stories from a few of my clients here. This is Tim. He was a self-described dyed-in-the-wool meat eater who followed Atkins. When he came to see me, he was on 8 medications for all of these things, and his skin was turning yellow. So as he put it, he went to Dr. Google, Dr. Internet, and figured out that his skin was turning yellow because his liver was stressing out. Remember, we talked about all the unused proteins, how our body has to excrete all those. That's hard on the liver. So he switched his diet, and he's off all 8 medications. He's lost tons of weight. His arthritis is gone, and claims his well-being is off the chart. This is Amanda. She's a teacher. She put on 50 pounds in college, and she developed irritable bowel syndrome as well, many digestive issues. And when she switched this way, she lost 115 pounds in a year. And you can see that her husband benefited as well. This is Doug. This is interesting. He's a man that developed high blood pressure in his early 40s. He had sleep apnea. Was using a CPAP machine. Severe plantar fasciitis. Remember we said anything ending with itis is related to inflammation. He was about to go on disability, actually. Then at age 46, he developed type 2 diabetes, and his doctor said, the diet and exercise would not matter, so just go home and take your meds. He was actually looking for ways to help himself, but his doctor told him it wouldn't matter if he changed his diet. But he did change his diet. He switched to whole food plant-based. In just 2 weeks, that plantar fasciitis cleared up for him. All that inflammation disappeared. His blood pressure normalized in 4 weeks. His diabetes reversed. And when he saw the doctor at the 18-week point into his plant-based journey, he hadn't told his doctor what he was doing, but the doctor came in with his lab charts and said, okay, what are you doing? He said, well, I've changed my diet. And the doctor was quite pleased and said, well, you're less than 1% of the people that would actually do that. But you know what? I disagree with that. I think if the doctor would have given him the option at the time of treatment, that more people would choose to do something proactive. This was the same doctor that told him it wouldn't matter if he changed his diet. That was the same doctor now praising him for doing that. And lastly, this is Linda. She has a skin condition called Haley disease, and she's in our family, so I've known her for years. So her skin would blister her. She'd have painful episodes and lesions, and so she was taking topical treatments and antibiotics. She switched her diet, and she's had no more flare-ups for the last few years. Her dermatologists are simply amazed by that. All of these testimonies and many more are in my book, so I just wanted to point out a few just to give you some hope and some encouragement about what is the power of plant food nutrition. So also in the book, just real briefly, I've talked about 7 ways to evaluate what you hear and read, because aren't we bombarded with conflicting information every day? I mean, one day grains are the worst thing on earth, the next day we need whole grains to be healthy. You just don't know what to believe. There's so many conflicting things, especially on the news. They like to sensationalize a lot of headlines, that's for sure. So in the book I talk about 7 things you can do to figure out what's right. And then also there's useful insights for dealing with resistance to change. 12 things that I've noticed over the almost 25 years of coaching people. I've noticed 12 reasons that kind of keeps them stuck from making change, and those are addressed in the book as well. Plus there's a 7-day meal plan in the book, but today I will give you a complimentary copy of the 21-day meal plan if you're so interested. I would just need your email to send that to you. Okay, and then one other thing I just want to mention briefly is that I have a new course coming out soon for people that want to begin to eat this way, and I have a flyer about that. So if you're interested in adopting this way of life, but you don't know where to begin, if you think you're just going to eat celery and broccoli, nothing could be further than the truth. But the meals are delicious and satisfying and comfort food and lasagna and burritos and mac and cheese and all of that. So that's what I teach in that class, is how to adopt this way of eating. Are there any questions at all? Is there time, Mike, for a couple questions?
Yeah, we have about
okay,
10 minutes.
10, okay. Any questions at all for me about anything that we've talked about here? The benefits, the amazing benefits of plant-based nutrition. If you're interested in the book, I do have some with me. You could meet me behind the tent if you're interested in that. I'll be here for a while. So I just saw some good friends came here from Illinois just to see me. Woo! Thank you very much. Okay, let's give a round of applause for Sue.
Okay, if anyone would like to take a meditation class, yoga class with Xylo, he's the gentleman standing over here with the big jug that kind of looks like moonshine. I'm sure it's water. You can follow him over by the lake at 3:30 for a meditation class. So, if you didn't hear previously, if you want to see any of the speeches that we saw earlier today, you can find them on our YouTube channel at plantbased.diet.org. Just search that and search the name.